Matthew 26:17 through 19. On the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples approached Jesus and said, "Where do you want us to go prepare for you to eat Passover?" So, eating the Passover meal was important. Every Jewish person would have kept it. The Feast of Unleavened Bread, I believe, is the first day of the Passover week. You have the Passover at the end of the week. So they would have been just entering Jerusalem that Sunday before. I believe this may be Tuesday. Anyway, it's recognized as the week. So it's interesting because this kind of shows that they wouldn't have ate at the same place each time. Because if they would have been already knowing. And they probably would have asked him this each time. It's just made mention here because this would have been the last time they would have been doing this. It also would have been something different this time because it would have been recognized as the first Lord's Supper, when before it was just a Passover meal. This would have been something they would have did each year together. He said, "Go into the city to so and tell him, the teacher says, my time is near. I shall observe the Passover with my disciples at your house." So this guy is opening up his house. He's welcoming Jesus in. He's going to open. The scripture talks about how one of the roles of a deacon and a pastor is they should be able to have their house welcomed and have visitors come by. They're to be hospitable. We see it with the Old Testament how Abraham had visitors, how Lot has visitors, which both cases are angels, but they don't know that, but they're hospitable. This man's hospitable. We see how Matthew, when he's called, has a meal after he's called to Jesus to say goodbye to his friends and shows hospitality. He's hospitable. Well, this man, clearly for him opening his house against somebody who's kind of wanted by the religious authorities to be dead, shows that he shows some faith in this part. When we open up and share a meal with others, it's a good time to share faith, to show Christ to them. Now, I believe this is the same place that they actually went back to for Pentecost. I ain't sure on that. So this place becomes very significant. Clearly, like I was saying, for this guy to open up his house, he clearly accepted Jesus in some form. So the disciples did as Jesus directed them and prepared the Passover. Now, the preparation for Passover is just making sure everything was there, making sure that they had what they needed to take for the sacrifice. They had to go to the temple and get something for them to eat, for them to receive that. We noticed in the Last Supper that usually lamb would have been consumed at the Passover, but we see how the lamb was there as Christ, so they didn't consume the lamb, but they got the unleavened bread and the cup together and for the Passover, and there would have been other things that was consumed at Passover. The lamb would have been the last thing gotten because it wouldn't have lasted as long as the others. But the cup and the bread were the most important because of what they would symbolize. So they would have prepared this, made sure they had enough for everyone that would have been there. Which, just being them, they would have been over a dozen. So they would have been more than that, because their families would have came with them and would have been in this meal too. We see from another part in Matthew that Peter was married, so his family would probably came with him at this point. While they wouldn't have necessarily followed them all the time, they would have definitely been there for Passover week. This is one of the reasons why Jesus went back to their house before he came here, was so that they could come, because everybody was to share in Passover. So these preparations, making sure everything's there, everybody's there, getting a head count, all this stuff is important. When we serve Christ, we need to know what we're going to be in store for. We need to prepare ourselves. We need to make things ready. That way, although He may change things up, which He oftentimes does, it doesn't mean that we don't make ready things. Like in teaching Scripture, you may study one passage, and you're to study it, and then He may change it. It doesn't mean because He's going to change it, you don't study. You make the preparations, and then if things change, He'll direct you.